I'm growing my hair long again, just like it was in school, so I can sway surreptitiously in the dark of an end of term bop. Dwi'n dysgu swisio eto. I'm learning to swish again, like I tried in sixth form. So pick me up at Penavon to jig upon the midnight moor, driving wild in red tights, solstice witching on a dare, lying across the white lines, praying whatever's changing gear beyond the next bend is a blazing Heathcliff.
Hello Jeremy, lovely to see you back in Cardiff again.
Hi, lovely to meet you again, Taz.
So you are reading at a special event put on by the Cardiff Central Library within the hour, and I was wondering what it is like to be back and be celebrated for your poetry in a city you have such close connection with.
Well, it feels really special to be recognised in Wales with a Welsh award for my poetry is just the most wonderful, wonderful feeling, especially as the book, Voice Coming From Then, is so rooted in Cardiff and the Vale where I grew up. So there's lots of references to different parts of Cardiff where different things happened, and again to like the coast and Penarth, and so to have the book recognised geographically in the actual geographic area that it's written in really means a lot. And the other aspect has been being able to do our little tour around Wales, reading in different venues, different bookshops, libraries, and kind of taking the book around Wales as a kind of celebration. And I have been taking the trophy around as well, because I thought it arrived. Yeah, well, it arrived in a cardboard box, and I thought, well, it deserves to get out, get charged up with that, some poetic energy. So that's been really nice, and just to show people it, and they can lift the award and see how heavy it is and all that kind of stuff. Yes, so it's just been incredible, absolutely incredible.
So you are enjoying this sort of journey through Wales, as in the journey following your Wales Book of the Year win?
Oh yes, it's fantastic. It's meeting people who read the book, that it's meant something to them, that they've understood it, or they've bought it for somebody else, or it's made them think of their own lives, it's made them think of people they've lost. So it starts to feel more of a wider project. It's going to be personal to me because of the subject matter, but I never wanted it to be the exclusion of everybody else's experiences. So to know that the poetry does resonate with people outside of my circle of friends and family, and throughout Wales, it's just been wonderful. Really, I can't describe it. Wonderful. This is one of the last poems in A Voice Coming From Then. I am. No release of balloons at dawn for me. No room left just as it was for me. No sewing my name on a quilt for me. No annual tears to spill for me. No keeping old shirts that smell of me. No video montages to play of me. No organising a forest search for me. No ambiguous goodbyes from me, no hideous surprise to find from me, no thinking of what to have said to me, no what ifs and could haves as all that remains of me, never a confessional wrote by me, best to acknowledge the luck of me, except I hold all those lost with me, those who survive, left to cope are me.
How did writing start? Can you remember your first burst of poetic creativity?
Yes, I can. It was when I was about 9 or 10, and my grandmother ran an engineering firm in Southend, and she gave me one of their old electric typewriters, and I just sat at the typewriter and started typing poetry, and of course it was rubbish, and I wasn't happy with it, and it took me till my late 20s to realise that you could edit poetry, that it wasn't divine inspiration and you wrote it all down in one go and then that was it. And as soon as I realised that about editing, that helped. I was living in Bristol at the time, and Bristol had a really big slam poetry scene. It still does, but this is like it had just started, and my friends got so sick and tired of me saying, "Oh, I'd love to do that. Oh, I'd love to have a poem. Oh, I'd love to do a slam. Oh, I'm just not confident. I couldn't write anything." But one of my friends, she actually entered me for the next slam, and then told me, instead of entered you, it's next Thursday, you better write 2 poems in case you get round the first round. So that was the impetus, and I wrote 2 poems. I did get through the first round, so I read 2 poems, and that was a start, really. That was a start. So I did think about perhaps using the in retail poem in A Voice Coming from Men, but ultimately I decided it wasn't quite right to repeat it. So I wrote another poem where that track makes another appearance. So it's a kind of linking of the 2 books. This is called The Nexus of Multiple Realities. There is a 15-year-old you who grows up in San Francisco, sneaks out late through a fire escape the week following our birthday to watch Sylvester play the War Memorial Opera House. You join in with the slowed down gospel chorus of "You make me feel," open brackets, "mighty real," close brackets. And your life begins in that singing and lasts almost another 19 years. There is a deniable you in Essex who marries young, has children. There is a you whose family moves to Edinburgh, where 2 days after the pills, your liver fails. And the Brighton you who hates teaching, alone in a flat you can't sustain. How do you ever harmonise? How can you ever restore? So you boomerang through universes, hoping a whispered kiss can fix infinity.
I want to ask about your first pamphlet in retail, which had been widely admired, and also your own imprint, Hazard Press, if I may.
Yes, well, I have a background in graphic design, and an interest in books. So I combined them with my own imprint, which is called Hazard Press, and it's essentially making artist books. So that's not necessarily like a book about an artist or a book full of pictures. It's where the object itself becomes a piece of art. So it might be how it opens, it might be the typography, it might be the binding, it might not open. The whole thing is you can't read it because you can't open it. All these kind of things. That's where my first interest in combining poetry with my artist books started, with some in retail poems. They'd been written when I was working in a big pharmacy down in Cardiff Bay, and I had ideas for poems. And should we stop? Okay, and so I'd have ideas for poems, scribble them down on the back of a receipt, and then stuff them in my sock because we weren't allowed to have anything personal on the floor. I made a little artist book of some of these poems. So it's A6, it was about that big. And the covers were made of tracing paper, and each cover combined a real shopping list that I'd found on the shop floor. So I took those to book fairs. People seemed to appreciate them. They all sold. So I wrote more poems, and then I had a whole set then, say about 30, 40, 50, 40 to 50 in retail poems. So that when Cherry, my publisher at Arachne Press, she'd already published one of the in retail poems in their anthology called The Other Side of Sleep. So she sent out a request to everybody she published if they had ideas for books. So I just sent her all the in retail poems. I didn't, looking back, I can't believe it. I didn't order them. I didn't put them in any kind of format. I just sent her everything. And luckily she could see through that, and so that led to the pamphlet in retail. So this is the poem I was talking about from in retail that really was the genesis for A Voice Coming From Then. And all the in retail poems just have numbers for titles. So this is 00/13. The in-store radio is on a major 70s kick. After an advert for Snoxin anti-wrinkle serum, you make me feel, open brackets, mighty real, close brackets, starts. Replaying a dark corner of the youth club where I dance by myself to Sylvester, unable to resist that immaculate beat, compelled to leave the false safety of a line of canvas chairs, failing to see what is apparent to everyone else, watching me punched the length of the pool table.
I'd love to know about your specific writing journey, which you covered already in a small way. The journey that led to the poetry category winner of the 2022 Wales Book of the Year collection, A Voice Coming From Then.
So when I was writing in retail, one of the poems was about being in the shop, hearing a specific track of music, and that sent me right back to being a teenager, being attacked in youth club, and that was the song that was playing when it happened. So I'd been trying to write about some of those issues for a long time, but that was the first kind of poem where I felt it worked in a personal but also in a more expansive way. And so that was one of the poems from In Retail. And almost as soon as that was written, I had the idea for voice coming from then. I knew I wanted it to deal with my teenage suicide attempt, homophobic bullying, AIDS crisis, the things I'd gone through, but also how it affected me, how it affected my life, and kind of like being able to look back in a poetic way and in a controlled way, and in a way that I hoped would help other people in a way to kind of understand their lives, or to say, you know, these things happen to far too many people for far too long, and it's always happened. So I suppose I got an initial group of poems together, and I always remember seeing tweets from Natalie Holborough. She was working on her second collection, Small, and I really admired how organised she was about saying, I've written these many poems, I need the 3 or 4 poems about this, and perhaps a poem about that, and then it'll be finished. So it was a light bulb moment for me, so I really approached my book from that way, in the sense I knew what the overall arc was, but I thought, well, okay, I need a poem that's specifically about that event, or something that addresses this kind of feeling. So although I didn't know what the poems were, it helped me structure and work around what was needed, and that also helped plan the statistics that were in the book, or the collages, the letterpress, because I wanted the book to reflect me and my interests, my life, my interest in book arts as well. So that's where the letterpress comes from one of my friends, Rachel at Semple Press, who works with letterpress. She did all the design for that. So for me, the book kind of includes all my life, but it's wider than my life. It has its traumatic aspects, but now that it's a book, it's almost contained and it's almost separate from me. So I feel I'm quite happy talking about it. And if other people want to discuss things with me, I'm able to do that. It's very interesting. It's slightly separate to me now.
And it is taking from that very last point you made about being comfortable to talk about some of the stories. I wondered how long it had taken to get your writing process to the stage where you were able to address these issues, or you know, had these issues been there when you first started writing?
Some of the ideas for some of the poems are very old, probably like 20 years. So the actual poems in the book weren't written 20 years ago, but the things they were trying to deal with, and some, you know, they might have a couple of lines that still relate. It wasn't really a conscious decision. It was when I just knew this was what I wanted to write. And I think part of knowing that I wanted to write it was kind of subconsciously knowing that I would be able to handle all that. Also, I really like the Sharon Olds phrase, the apparently personal. So I'd kind of learned that it's not complete autobiography. It's a poetic exploration of my life, and the sheer act of putting your life into words and letters makes it unreal anyway. So in a sense, the artifice of the book helped, as I say, deal with those emotions, and say the structure of the book, having everything in couplets, having the collages and the statistics to help break up some of the intensity in a sort of visual way was another aspect that kind of helped for those.
You mentioned Natalie and Holborough, and I also follow her on Twitter, and it's palpable that your first pamphlet and the collection, they've been kind of mentioned and plugged up by her even before the Wales Book of the Year nomination. So I think there's probably been great admiration and, if I may say so, love for your work and what you're trying to do. Since the pamphlet came out, really.
Well, again, that's why the award means so much to me, because of all the support I've had from so many Cardiff, South Wales, West Wales, North Walian poets. It's I get quite emotional thinking about it. That a lot of them are a lot younger than me. That my poetry is relevant to them. That they're not, they don't identify as queer. That again, that they can respond to my work. I just feel very blessed to have all those poets in my life, really, and I think that's a kind of almost an unrecognised aspect of the poetry community in Wales. I mean, I did for about 2005, I think I did a course at Tynewydd, and Gillian Clark was running it, and I always remember we had a one-to-one at the end of the week, and she turned to me and she said, I think with a bit of work you've got the makings of a good poet. And that was
right, obviously.
and that was just what I needed. Gwyneth Lewis has been amazing as well, very supportive. So yes, that's why to have the book recognised in Wales when I feel so much love for the whole Welsh poetry community. Is very special.
Fantastic.
So this is a newer poem that I wrote just as A Voice Coming From Then was going to press. It's about my father who died last year, also about Kate Bush. Googling what to do when someone dies at home. The day my father died, all I could listen to was The Dreaming on repeat. The 2018 remastered edition on premium 180 GSM heavyweight vinyl. The most experimental, divisive album of her career. A cacophony. Each track an act. A changing. Sat in your lap. Get out of my house. Suspended in gaffer.
When I thought of you prior to the prize, I always thought about your Anne Sexton poem, which I can't seem to be able to get out of my head. I wondered if you'd like to tell me a little about your past and contemporary poetic influences, or maybe even influences from writers, and also how this might inspire you to future ideas, future projects that maybe you're thinking of.
Right, okay. Well, obviously, when one of the themes of your collection is suicide, Anne Sexton is going to be quite an influence. She always has been. So I reread all her books in the lead up to the writing of a voice coming from then. I like a lot of American poets, Frank O'Hara, John Ashbery. Contemporary American poetry is very exciting to me. I love the work of Dan Smith and their performance aspect of the work as well, and probably C.A. Conrad for their insistence on poetry has to be in the now, and C.A. Conrad will devise certain poetic rituals to put their body through a process in which you can write ideas unimpeded. So they were very influential. And again, as I was just saying, all my Welsh poets and seeing what they're doing, and having a close relationship with a wide community of poets is very inspiring, because you can cheer everybody's successes, you can see what people are working on. You also get the chance to see different types of performances, how people read their work, either in real life or online. So yeah, wide range of influences. And as to what I'm going to be working on at the moment, well, again, it's quite interesting. One of the poems in Voice Coming From Men is all about Donna Summer, and the poems I've been writing since have been about music and dancing, but it seems the climate and the environment is kind of pushing its way into those poems. So I don't see it as whatever I'm working on next isn't such a organised or planned book as A Voice Coming From Them, because I think that's a one-off anyway. I won't want to repeat it, but I think certain aspects of it, like layout, collage, pushing the boundaries of what visual poetry can be within a book, those are the kinds of things I'm interested in. And yes, something very kind of positive and uplifting. Not that A Voice Coming From Men, I don't feel that there isn't that, but I think that it has different darker themes that give it a different kind of flavour, whereas I think this one's going to be kind of like a disco anthem.
Your collection is direct, immensely accessible, even to those who may never have taken an interest in poetry before. It is biography and a survival manifesto congealed in one, something that delivers at an epoch in history where poetry seems to be allowing for a sense of directness. So I want to know what or where is next for you in terms of projects.
Well, I'm still kind of just mentally digesting the win, and working on new poems. I'm just seeing what's coming out. I am part of an online queer writers group, and kind of thinking about ways in which perhaps we could widen that, and perhaps work with younger LGBTQ plus individuals, helping some other voices get out there, not necessarily younger voices, older voices as well. I'm very aware that there aren't as many poets of my age, gay male poets, because so many of them died through AIDS. So I'm kind of, there's some crusade aspect that I want to do with my work, and that I think a voice coming from them then allows me to do, but I haven't quite worked out what that's going to be. So if anybody has any suggestions, get in contact.